Hey there guys, this is my second video on the moon. I said I was going to make multiple videos to try to properly explain my challenge against flat earthers and their idea of the moon and how the moon works. This video I'm going to focus completely on just the moon's light and how the moon's light is from the sun, that the moon is not creating its own light. I might also throw in the moonlight being cold or not cold, but I'm just going to try to stick with the moon's light and why I fully believe it's from the sun. But this doesn't mean that we live on a heliocentric model. Doesn't mean that the sun and the moon are in outer space. Still doesn't mean that the sun is 93 million miles away. It doesn't mean that the moon is 250,000 miles away. It doesn't mean anything else besides that the light that we see on the moon comes from the sun. And so mainly I guess the easiest way to explain this is the fact that moon phases change when they come out throughout the year. Now, I don't know the proper terminology for this, and so I'm going to try to explain it the best layman way that I can so that it's understandable. So during the summer months, here in the northern hemisphere, we get full moon rises before the sun sets. And typically in the summertime, you're looking around 9:30-ish, maybe a little sooner, maybe a little later, that the sun sets. So that would mean that the full moon rising before that. So that would put the moon that is rising around 9:30, 9 o'clock, in between there is a full moon. Well, if you fast forward 6 months later, we're in winter time. Here where I'm at, the sun is setting this year. It was setting on winter solstice 4:30, which, that's another thing to get into, is the fact that, the sunset times change from year to year during the winter solstice. You can check, time and dates on sunsets. During the winter time, they actually change, and some years there's a big difference in time-wise, almost like an hour and a half difference sunset. But anyway, during the winter time, with the sun setting 4:30, full moon comes up typically during the winter time an hour or so after the sun is set. And so now, during the winter time, the moon that is rising between 5:36 is now the full moon. It's no longer the moon that comes up at 9 or 9:30. It is now the moon that's coming up by 6. And throughout the year, the full moon will change which moon cycle or which day of the moon's cycle will be the full moon. So the phases change. And this is going to be because of the fact that throughout the year, the sun moves. The sun heads out south, the sun comes in north. As it moves throughout the year, that changes what moon phases come out at what time, indicating that the sun is responsible for the light that we see on the moon. This was something that actually took me probably over 2 years to realize. It was probably into the third year that I started to realize that the moon phases did this. I was still stuck on the idea that, the moon created its own light. I thought that, full moons meant that the moon was above us, that that'd be the coldest night of the month during the moon cycle. It's not. That's another thing that I can tell you is wrong, that a full moon is not always the coldest. There's not always the coldest moon. So for those flat earthers that still believe that the moon light creates the cooling effect that isn't true either. The moon itself, just the moon, creates this cooling effect. And depending on how directly above your location is determining how much the moon has an effect on that area. And so there's times that, yes, it will be the full moon when the moon's directly above you that you'll feel the most cooling effect from the moon. There's other times where the full moon will come and gone, and it won't be till 2-3 days later that the moon is actually above your area, making that the coolest night or the coolest day of the month. Another thing, I don't remember if I went in this over the last video, but you can feel new moons. During certain times of the year, you feel it a little easier than other times, but you can actually feel the new moon up there with the sun. You know, you get used to the feeling of the sun on your skin. You also can get used to the feeling of the moon on your skin. It does have a certain feel to it. And if you just pay attention, you start to realize what the feel is. You realize that that's the feeling that comes from the moon. And so there are times of the year that you can stand outside, you can feel the moon and the sun at the same time. Now, anyone can choose to argue with this over it, but unless you actually go out, spend the 3 years or more doing the observations, doing the watching, paying attention, there's not really much you can, I don't really know what to say about it. I'm just telling you, this is what I observed. You know, I spent day after day, a couple of years of this, just watching, paying attention, watching how the moon affects the weather. I even check weather apps. I watch how the moon cycle changes, the weather. It changes the temperature of the weather to where you'll have cooler weather during certain moon phases when the moon is more above you. But it's not because of the light of the moon. I'm pretty sure I went into this in the last video that, if you have a fire going, it isn't the light of the fire that produces the heat. You can put an object between you and that fire. That object will then take the heat of the fire and you won't feel nothing. But it has nothing to do with the light coming off the fire, just like the moon. It has nothing to do with the light coming off the moon. So because you get into the shadow of the moon's light, it feels warmer, which it is. But that's only because you've put an object between you and the moon. It's not the moon light doing it. It's just the moon itself. The moon creates a cooling effect. How it does it, I'm not really sure. It's not really something you can find out just by observing. I guess it's going to take a little more critical thinking, a little bit more, more observations. Another interesting thing I observed, and this isn't even connected to the moon. I was watching a video on YouTube a few days ago, and it was in Action Lab. The gentleman decided he was going to take, it's called Musso Black. It's supposed to be the blackest black. He painted this room that he created with this black. If you go and take a look at this video, it will give you some ideas as to why the moon looks the way it does up in the sky. Why some flat earthers say that the shadows on the moon don't quite connect to how it works down here. I mean, it's a very interesting thing because the guy, paints the room black. It is so black it absorbs 99% of the light. So he goes in there, has the light on. The only light you can really see is the light directly on him. It's a very interesting effect. It reminds me of the moon phases. Something you guys might want to check out. Something I always tell my family is, when you're researching something, it's a good idea to cast a wide net. You can't always just focus in one area thinking you're going to find the answers to what you're searching. It's better to cast a wide net, crossing into different areas of research, because sometimes there's dots to be connected in areas that you wouldn't think you would find a dot to connect, that are going to answer questions that you didn't realize by looking in a completely different subject you would find answers that answer your question that you're searching in a different area. This is how I tend to research. I like to cast a lot of wide nets and kind of crisscross, find dots to be connected, so I can best answer my question. I'm not really sure how many more videos I have to make. I'm gonna have to go back over the ones I've made and kind of see what information I've put out there. Again, this is a challenge to flat earthers to come watch my videos and prove me wrong. You know, I'm not looking for a fight. This is kind of like a friendly challenge. I'm just telling you, I've done the observations. I've watched the moon for three years. And this is what I've noticed. This is what I've seen. So anyone who wants to say the moon is producing their own light, I have to say you're wrong. For anyone who says the moonlight is cold, I'd have to say you're wrong. For anyone who wants to say, oh, another thing, anyone who wants to say the moon is not a ball, I'd almost have to say you're wrong there too. You know, sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times, a good lie starts off with a little bit of truth. So I do think that the moon is a ball. When you watch or observe the moon phases from a waxing crescent all the way up to a waxing half moon, you can see the lit portion and the dark portion of the moon at the same time. And I believe this is because the light is hitting the backside of the object, or of the moon, not object, the moon, and allowing us to see the entire moon. So I do believe the moon is a ball of some sort. I don't know what it's made of. I don't have the slightest clue. There are some flat earthers that think it's made out of some kind of crystal. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. But I think that's about all I got. I'm trying to think. I'm not used to talking to people. I'm not very good at speaking. This is why I make crappy videos. So I'm sorry about that. But, you know, the observations are real. I spent a lot of time outside watching. I can tell you that the sun and the moon has enough proof to prove we don't live on a ball. Just the sun and moon alone. You can do the stick and shadow experiment, which I've done. At first, I thought it didn't prove anything. But then when I came to realize that, you know, this whole 15 degrees per hour, that how they describe the sun moves, that a degree is an angle. You know, and an angle is basically one of those little, you know, alligator mouths that's going to eat the greater number. Greater than, less than. It's a triangle missing one wall. Well, if you think about it as an angle, and the North Pole being the point, that 15 degrees, the distance between the two marks is less. Less mileage. So during the summertime, a half moon phase and the sun are much closer to each other in the sky than during the wintertime. It's almost three times difference. During the wintertime, when you have a half moon phase, the moon is almost all the way across the sky. During the summertime, they're fairly close to each other. So that's telling us that during the wintertime, the sun is having to make a bigger circle. So that would match flat Earth. That wouldn't match the globe Earth. So, you know, I like to watch the sun and the moon. I think the sky has a lot to teach us. I think most of the answers we need are right there. But, again, nice friendly challenge for you flat earthers. Please come prove me wrong. Or take this information for you smarter flat earthers, run with it, and take it somewhere, because I'm not smart enough for that. I can just tell you the observations that I've seen. So I hope to read your comments. I'll answer any questions that there may be, and I hope this helps any flat earthers to find more truth for you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you later.